Pastels, an excerpt from American Psycho by Bret, Easton, Ellis. Pastels. I'm on the verge of tears by the time we arrive at Pastels, since I'm positive we won't get seated, but the table is good, and relief that is almost tidal in scope washes over me in an awesome wave. At Pastels, McDermott knows the maitre d', and though we made our reservations from a cab only minutes ago, we're immediately led past the overcrowded bar into the pink, brightly lit main dining room and seated at an excellent booth for 4, up front. It's really impossible to get a reservation at Pastels, and I think Van Patten, myself, even Price are impressed, maybe even envious, of McDermott's prowess in securing a table. After we piled into a cab on Water Street, we realized that no one had made reservations anywhere, and while debating the merits of a new Californian Sicilian bistro on the Upper East Side, my panic so great I almost ripped Zagat in two, the consensus seemed to emerge. Price had the only dissenting voice, but he finally shrugged and said, "I don't give a shit," and we used his portaphone to make the reservation. He slipped his Walkman on and turned the volume up so loud that the sound of Vivaldi was audible even with the windows halfway open and the noise of the uptown traffic blasting into the taxi. Van Patten and McDermott made rude jokes about the size of Tim's dick, and I did too. Outside Pastels, Tim grabbed the napkin with Van Patten's final version of his carefully phrased question for GQ on it and tossed it at a bum huddling outside the restaurant, feebly holding up a sloppy cardboard sign, "I am hungry and homeless. Please help me." Things seem to be going smoothly. The maitre d' has sent over 4 complimentary Bellinis, but we order drinks anyway. The Ronettes are singing "Then He Kissed Me." Our waitress is a little hard-body, and even Price seems relaxed, though he hates the place. Plus, there are 4 women at the table opposite ours, all great-looking, blonde, big tits. One is wearing a chemise dress in double-faced wool by Calvin Klein. Another is wearing a wool knit dress and jacket with silk fay bonding by Jeffrey Bean. Another is wearing a symmetrical skirt of pleated tulle and an embroidered velvet bustier by, I think, Christian Lacroix, plus high-heeled shoes by Sidonie Lorisi. And the last one is wearing a black strapless sequin gown under a wool crepe-tailored jacket by Bill Blass. Now the Shirelles are coming out of the speakers, dancing in the street, and the sound system plus the acoustics, because of the restaurant's high ceiling, are so loud that we have to practically scream out our order to the hard-body waitress, who is wearing a bicolored suit of wool grain with passementerie trim by Marron de Premonville and velvet ankle boots, and who, I'm fairly sure, is flirting with me. Laughs sexily when I order, as an appetizer, the monkfish and squid ceviche with golden caviar. Gives me a stare so steamy, so penetrating when I order the gravlax pot pie with green tomatillo sauce. I have to look back at the pink Bellini and the tall champagne flute with a concerned, deadly serious expression, so as not to let her think I'm too interested. Price orders the tapas, and then the venison with yogurt sauce and fiddlehead ferns with mango slices. McDermott orders the sashimi with goat cheese, and then the smoked duck with endive and maple syrup. Van Patten has the scallop sausage and the grilled salmon with raspberry vinegar and guacamole. The air conditioning in the restaurant is on full blast, and I'm beginning to feel bad that I'm not wearing the new Versace pullover I bought last week at Bergdorf's. It would look good with the suit I'm wearing. "Could you please get rid of these things?" Price tells the busboy as he gestures toward the Bellinis. "Wait, Tim," Van Patten says. "Cool out. I'll drink them." "Eurotrash, David," Price explains. "Eurotrash." "You can have mine, Van Patten," I say. "Wait," McDermott says, holding the busboy back. "I'm keeping mine too." "Why?" Price asks. "Are you trying to entice that Armenian chick over by the bar?" "What Armenian chick?" Van Patten is suddenly craning his neck, interested. Just take them all, Price says, practically seething. The busboy humbly removes the glasses, nodding to no one as he walks away. Who made you boss? McDermott whines. Look, guys. Look who just came in, Van Patten whistles. Ooh, boy. Oh, for Christ's sakes. Not fucking Preston. Price sighs. No. Oh no, Van Patten says ominously. He hasn't spotted us yet. Victor Powell? Paul Owen? I say, suddenly scared. He's 24 and worth, let's say, a repulsive amount of dough, Van Patten hints, grinning. He has obviously been spotted by the person and flashes a bright, toothy smile. A veritable shitload. I crane my neck but can't figure out who's doing anything. It's Scott Montgomery, Price says. Isn't it? It's Scott Montgomery. Perhaps, Van Patten teases. It's that dwarf, Scott Montgomery, says Price. Price, Van Patten says. You're priceless. Watch me act thrilled, Price says, turning around. Well, as thrilled as I can get meeting someone from Georgia. Whoa, McDermott says, and he's dressed to impress. Hey, Price says, I'm depressed. Impressed. Wow, I say, spotting Montgomery. Elegant navies. Subtle plaids, Van Patten whispers. Lots of beige, Price says. You know. Here he comes, I say, bracing myself. Scott Montgomery walks over to our booth, wearing a double-breasted navy blue blazer with mock tortoiseshell buttons, a pre-washed wrinkled cotton-striped dress shirt with red accent stitching, a red, white, and blue fireworks print silk tie by Hugo Boss, and plum washed wool trousers with a quadruple pleated front and slashed pockets by Lazo. He's holding a glass of champagne and hands it to the girl he's with. Definite model type. Thin, okay tits, no ass, high heels, and she's wearing a wool crepe skirt and a wool and cashmere velour jacket, and draped over her arm is a wool and cashmere velour coat, all by Louis Delolio, high-heeled shoes by Susan Bennis Warren Edwards, sunglasses by Elaine Micli, pressed leather bag from Hermes. Hey, fellas. How you doing? Montgomery speaks in a thick Georgia twang. This is Nicky. Nicky, this is McDonald, Van Buren, Bateman, nice tan, and Mr. Price. He shakes only Timothy's hand and then takes the champagne glass from Nicky. Nicky smiles politely, like a robot. Probably doesn't speak English. Montgomery, Price says in a kindly, conversational tone, staring at Nicky. How have things been? Well, fellas, Montgomery says. See y'all got the primo table. Get the check yet? Just kidding. Listen, Montgomery, Price says, staring at Nicky but still being unusually kind to someone I thought was a stranger. Squash? Call me, Montgomery says absently, looking over the room. Is that Tyson? Here's my card. Great, Price says, pocketing it. Thursday? Can't. Going to Dallas tomorrow, but Montgomery is already moving away from the table, hurrying towards someone else, snapping for Nicky. Yeah, next week. Nicky smiles at me, then looks at the floor. Pink, blue, lime, green tiles crisscrossing each other in triangular patterns, as if it has some kind of answer, held some sort of clue, offered a coherent reason as to why she was stuck with Montgomery. Idly, I wondered if she's older than him, and then if she's flirting with me. Later, Price is saying. Later, fellas. Montgomery is already about halfway across the room. Nicky slinks behind him. I was wrong. She does have an ass. 800 million, McDermott whistles, shaking his head. College? I ask. A joke, Price hints. Rollins? I guess. Get this, McDermott says. Hampton, Sydney. He's a parasite, a loser, a weasel, Van Patten concludes. But he's worth 800 million, McDermott repeats emphatically. Go over and give the dwarf head. Will you shut up? Price says. I mean, how impressed can you get, McDermott? Anyway, I mention, nice babe. That girl is hot, McDermott agrees. Affirmative. Price nods, but grudgingly. Oh, man, Van Patten says, distressed. I know that chick. Oh, bullshit, we all moan. Let me guess, I say. Picked her up at Tunnel, right? No, he says. Then after sipping his drink, she's a model. Anorexic, alcoholic, uptight bitch. Totally French. What a joke you are, I say, unsure if he's lying. Want to bet? So what? McDermott shrugs. I'd fuck her. She drinks a liter of Stoli a day, then throws it up and re-drinks it, McDermott, Van Patten explains. Total alky. Total cheap alky, Price murmurs. I don't care, McDermott says bravely. She is beautiful. I want to fuck her. I want to marry her. I want her to have my children. Oh, Jesus, Van Patten says, practically gagging. Who wants to marry a chick who's going to give birth to a jug of vodka and cranberry juice? He has a point, I say. Yeah, he also wants to shack up with that Armenian chick at the bar, Price sneers. What'll she give birth to? A bottle of Corbel and a pint of peach juice? What Armenian chick? McDermott asks, exasperated, craning his neck. Oh, Jesus. Fuck off, you faggots, Van Patten sighs. The maitre d' stops by to say hello to McDermott, then notices we don't have our complimentary Bellinis and runs off before any of us can stop him. I'm not sure how McDermott knows Elaine so well. Maybe Cecilia? And it slightly pisses me off, but I decide to even up the score a little by showing everyone my new business card. I pull it out of my gazelle skin wallet, Barney's, $850, and slap it on the table, waiting for reactions. What's that? The gram? Price says, not apathetically. New card. I try to act casual about it, but I'm smiling proudly. What do you think? Whoa, McDermott says, lifting it up, fingering the card, genuinely impressed. Very nice. Take a look. He hands it to Van Patten. Picked them up from the printers yesterday, I mention. Cool coloring, Van Patten says, studying the card closely. That's bone, I point out, and the lettering is something called Cillian Rail. Cillian Rail? McDermott asks. Yeah, not bad, huh? It is very cool, Bateman, Van Patten says guardedly, the jealous bastard. But that's nothing. He pulls out his wallet and slaps a card next to an ashtray. Look at this. We all lean over and inspect David's card, and Price quietly says, That's really nice. A brief spasm of jealousy courses through me when I notice the elegance of the color and the classy type. I clench my fist as Van Patten says smugly, Eggshell with Romalian type. He turns to me. What do you think? Nice, I croak, but manage to nod as the busboy brings 4 fresh Bellinis. Jesus, Price says, holding the card up to the light, ignoring the new drinks. This is really super. How'd a nitwit like you get so tasteful? I'm looking at Van Patten's card and then at mine and cannot believe that Price actually likes Van Patten's better. Dizzy, I sip my drink, then take a deep breath. But wait, Price says. You ain't seen nothing yet. He pulls his out of an inside coat pocket and slowly, dramatically turns it over for our inspection and says, Mine. Even I have to admit it's magnificent. Suddenly, the restaurant seems far away, hushed, The noise distant, a meaningless hum, compared to this card, and we all hear Price's words. Raised lettering, pale nimbus white. Holy shit, Van Patten exclaims. I've never seen... Nice. Very nice, I have to admit. But wait. Let's see Montgomery's. Price pulls it out, and though he's acting nonchalant, I don't see how he can ignore its subtle off-white coloring, its tasteful thickness. I am unexpectedly depressed that I started this. Pizza. Let's order pizza, McDermott says. Doesn't anyone want to split a pizza? Red snapper? Bateman wants that, he says, rubbing his hands eagerly together. I pick up Montgomery's card and actually finger it, for the sensation the card gives off to the pads of my fingers. Nice, huh? Price's tone suggests he realizes I'm jealous. Yeah, I say offhandedly, giving Price the card like I don't give a shit, and I'm finding it hard to swallow. Red snapper pizza, McDermott reminds me. I'm fucking starving. No pizza, I murmur, relieved when Montgomery's card is placed away, out of sight, back in Timothy's pocket. Come on, McDermott says, whining. Let's order the red snapper pizza. Shut up, Craig, Van Patten says, eyeing a waitress taking a booth's order. But call that hardbody over. But she's not ours, McDermott says, fidgeting with the menu he's yanked from a passing busboy. Call her over anyway, Van Patten insists. Ask her for water or a Corona or something. Why her? I'm asking no one in particular. My card lies on the table, ignored next to an orchid in a blue glass vase. Gently, I pick it up and slip it, folded, back into my wallet. She looks exactly like this girl who works at the Georgette Klinger section of Bloomingdale's, Van Patten says. Call her over. Does anyone want the pizza or not? McDermott's getting testy. How would you know? I ask Van Patten. I buy Kate's perfume there, he answers. Price's gestures gather the table's attention. Did I forget to tell everyone that Montgomery's a dwarf? Who's Kate? I say. Kate is the chick who Van Patten's having the affair with, Price explains, staring back at Montgomery's table. What happened to Miss Kittredge? I ask. Yeah, Price smiles. What about Amanda? Oh, God, guys, lighten up. Fidelity? Right. Aren't you afraid of diseases? From who? Amanda or Kate? I ask. I thought we agreed that we can't get it. Van Patten's voice rises. So, shithead, shut up. Didn't I tell you 4 more Bellinis arrive? There are now 8 Bellinis on the table. Oh my God, Price moans, trying to grab at the busboy before he scampers off. Red snapper pizza, red snapper pizza, McDermott has found a mantra for the evening. We'll soon become targets for horny Iranian chicks, Price drones. It's like 0.00% whatever, you know. Are you listening? Van Patten asks. Snapper pizza, red snapper pizza. Then McDermott slams his hand on the table, rocking it. God damn it! Isn't anybody listening to me? I'm still tranced out on Montgomery's card. The classy coloring, the thickness, the lettering, the print. And I suddenly raise a fist as if to strike out at Craig and scream, my voice booming. No one wants the fucking red snapper pizza! A pizza should be yeasty and slightly bready and have a cheesy crust. The crusts here are too fucking thin because the shithead chef who cooks here overbakes everything. The pizza's dried out and brittle. Red-faced, I slam my Bellini down on the table, and when I look up, our appetizers have arrived. A hard-body waitress stands looking down at me with this strange, glazed expression. I wipe a hand over my face, genially smiling up at her. She stands there, looking at me as if I were some kind of monster. She actually looks scared, and I glance over at Price. For what? guidance? And he mouths, cigars, and pats his coat pocket. McDermott quietly says, I don't think they're brittle. Honey, I say, ignoring McDermott, taking an arm and pulling her toward me. She flinches, but I smile and she lets me pull her closer. Now, we're all going to eat a nice big meal here, I start to explain. But this isn't what I ordered, Van Patten says, looking at his plate. I wanted the muscle sausage. Shut up. I shoot him a glance, then calmly turn toward the hardbody, grinning like an idiot, but a handsome idiot. Now, listen, we are good customers here, and we're probably going to order some fine brandy, cognac, who knows, and we want to relax and bask in this, I gesture with my arm, atmosphere. Now, with the other hand, I pull out my gazelle skin wallet. We would like to enjoy some fine Cuban cigars afterwards, and we don't want to be bothered by some loutish, McDermott nods to Van Patten and Price. Loutish and inconsiderate patrons or tourists who are inevitably going to complain about our innocuous little habit. So, I press what I hope is a 50 into a small boned hand. If you could make sure we aren't bothered while we do, we would gratefully appreciate it. I rub the hand, closing it into a fist over the bill. And if anyone complains, well, I pause, then warn menacingly, kick him out. She nods mutely and backs away with this dazed, confused look on her face. And, Price adds, smiling, if another round of Bellinis comes within a 20-foot radius of this table, we are going to set the maitre d' on fire. So, warn him. After a long silence, during which we contemplate our appetizers, Van Patten speaks up. Bateman? Yes. I fork a piece of monkfish, push it into some of the golden caviar, then place the fork back down. You are pure prep perfection, he purrs. Price spots another waitress approaching with a tray of 4 champagne flutes filled with pale pinkish liquid and says, Oh, for Christ's sakes, this is getting ridiculous. She sets them down, however, at the table next to us for the 4 babes. She is hot, Van Patten says, ignoring his scallop sausage. Hard body. McDermott nods in agreement. Definitely. I'm not impressed, Price sniffs. Look at her knees. While the hard body stands there, we check her out, and though her knees do support long tan legs, I can't help noticing that one knee is, admittedly, bigger than the other. The left knee is knobbier, almost imperceptibly thicker than the right knee, and this unnoticeable flaw now seems overwhelming and we all lose interest. Van Patten is looking at his appetizer, stunned, and then he looks at McDermott and says, That isn't what you ordered either. That's sushi, not sashimi. Jesus, McDermott sighs. You don't come here for the food anyway. Some guy who looks exactly like Christopher Lauder comes over to the table and says, patting me on the shoulder, Hey, Hamilton, nice tan, before walking into the men's room. Nice tan, Hamilton. Price mimics, tossing tapas onto my bread plate. Oh, gosh, I say. Hope I'm not blushing. Actually, where do you go, Bateman? Van Patten asks. For a tan. Yeah, Bateman, where do you go? McDermott seems genuinely intrigued. Read my lips, I say. A tanning salon. Then, irritably, like everyone else. I have, Van Patten says, pausing for maximum impact, a tanning bed at home. And then he takes a large bite out of his scallop sausage. Oh, bullshit, I say, cringing. It's true, McDermott confirms, his mouth full. I've seen it. That is fucking outrageous, I say. Why the hell is it fucking outrageous? Price asks, pushing tapas around his plate with a fork. Do you know how expensive a fucking tanning salon membership is? Van Patten asks me. A membership? For a year? You're crazy, I mutter. Look, guys, Van Patten says. Bateman's indignant. Suddenly, a busboy appears at our table and without asking if we're finished, removes our mostly uneaten appetizers. None of us complain except for McDermott, who asks, "Did he just take our appetizers away?" and then laughs uncomprehendingly. And when he sees no one else laughing, he stops. He took them away because the portions are so small he probably thought we were finished, Price says tiredly. I just think it's crazy about the tanning bed, I tell Van Patten, though secretly I think it would be a hip luxury, except I really have no room for one in my apartment. There are things one could do with it, besides getting a tan. Who is Paul Owen with? I hear McDermott asking Price. Some weasel from Kicker Peabody, Price says distractedly. He knew McCoy. Then why is he sitting with those dweebs from Drexel? McDermott asks. Isn't that Spencer Wynn? Are you freebasing or what? Price asks. That's not Spencer Wynn. I look over at Paul Owen, sitting in a booth with 3 other guys, one of whom could be Jeff Duvall, suspenders, slick-backed hair, horn-rimmed glasses, all of them drinking champagne, and I lazily wonder about how Owen got the Fisher account. It makes me not hungry, but our meals arrive almost immediately after our appetizers are taken away, and we begin to eat. McDermott undoes his suspenders. Price calls him a slob. I feel paralyzed, but manage to turn away from Owen and stare at my plate, the pot pie, a yellow hexagon, strips of smoked salmon circling it, squiggles of pea-green tomatillo sauce artfully surrounding the dish. And then I gaze at the waiting crowd. They seem hostile, drunk on complimentary Bellinis perhaps, tired of waiting hours for shitty tables near the open kitchen even though they had reservations. Van Patten interrupts the silence at our table by slamming his fork down and pushing his chair back. What's wrong? I say, looking up from my plate, a fork poised over it, but my hand will not move. It's as if it appreciated the plate's setup too much, as if my hand had a mind of its own and refused to break up its design. I sigh and put the fork down. Hopeless. Shit! I have to tape this movie on cable for Mandy. He wipes his mouth with a napkin, stands up. I'll be back. Have her do it, idiot, Price says. What are you, demented? She's in Boston, seeing her dentist. Van Patten shrugs, pussy-whipped. What in the hell are you going to do? My voice wavers. I'm still thinking about Van Patten's card. Call up HBO? No, he says. I have a touch-tone phone hooked up to program a Videonics VCR programmer I bought at Hammaker Schlemmer. He walks away, pulling his suspenders up. How hip, I say, tonelessly. Hey, what do you want for dessert? McDermott calls out. Something chocolate and flourless. Has Van Patten stopped working out? I ask. He looks puffy. It looks that way, doesn't it? Price says. Doesn't he have a membership at the Vertical Club? I ask. I don't know. Price murmurs, studying his plate. Then, sitting up, he pushes it away and motions to the waitress for another Finlandia on the rocks. Another hard-body waitress approaches us tentatively, bringing over a bottle of champagne, Perrier Jouet, non-vintage, and tells us it's complimentary from Scott Montgomery. Non-vintage. That weasel. Price hisses, craning his neck to find Montgomery's table. Loser. He gives him a thumbs-up sign from across the room. The fucker's so short I could barely see him. I think I gave a thumbs-up to Conrad. I can't be sure. Where's Conrad? I ask. I should say hello to him. The dude who called you Hamilton, Price says. That wasn't Conrad, I say. Are you sure? It looked a hell of a lot like him, he says, but he's not really listening. He blatantly stares at the hard-body waitress, at exposed cleavage as she leans down to get a firmer grip on the bottle's cork. No, that wasn't Conrad, I say, surprised at Price's inability to recognize coworkers. That guy had a better haircut. We sit in silence while the hard body pours the champagne. Once she leaves, McDermott asks if we liked the food. I tell him the pot pie was fine, but there was way too much tomatillo sauce. McDermott nods, says, "That's what I've heard." Van Patten returns, mumbling, "They don't have a good bathroom to do coke in." "Dessert?" McDermott suggests. "Only if I can order the Bellini sorbet," Price says, yawning. "How about just the check?" Van Patten says. "Time to go bird dogging, gentlemen," I say. The hard body brings the check over. The total is $475, much less than we expected. We split it, but I need the cash, so I put it on my Platinum Amex and collect their bills, mostly fresh 50s. McDermott demands $10 back since his scallop sausage appetizer was only $16. Montgomery's bottle of champagne is left at the table, undrunk. Outside Pastels, a different bum sits in the street with a sign that says something completely illegible. He gently asks us for some change and then, more hopefully, for some food. "That dude needs a facial real bad," I say. "Hey, McDermott," Price cackles. "Throw him your tie." "Oh, shit. What's that gonna get him?" I ask, staring at the bum. "Appetizers at Jams?" Van Patten laughs. He gives me high five. "Dude," McDermott says, inspecting his tie, clearly offended. "Oh, sorry. Cab," Price says, waving down a cab. "And a beverage." "Off to Tunnel," McDermott tells the driver. "Great, McDermott," Price says, getting in the front seat. "You sound really excited." "So what if I'm not some burned-out, decadent faggot like yourself?" McDermott says, getting in ahead of me. "Did anyone know cavemen got more fiber than we do?" Price asks the cab driver. "Hey, I heard that too," McDermott says. "Van Patten," I say. "Did you see the comp bottle of champagne Montgomery sent over?" "Really?" Van Patten asks, leaning over McDermott. "Let me guess. Perrier Jouet?" "Bingo," Price says. "Non-vintage." "Fucking weasel," Van Patten says.